Okay, everyone. So glad you're joining me this week for another episode of Paige My Book. Today it goes without saying, you heard it in the bio. I am super excited to really share this person with y'all. So you are welcome. This is a person I have high respect for. When I thought about the theme of this season and the concept of coming out of the valley with fortitude, ambition, and perseverance. Many people came to mind, but this was one of the first people that literally rose to the top. So I'm so glad to have him here. And without further ado, because I'm super excited about it, I'm going to let him introduce himself to all the listeners out there so we can just learn about what he's done, what he's accomplished. So excited, passing the mic over to you.
Hey, everybody. My name is Marcus Davis, or I am Marcus Davis. And before I jump into a little bit about me, I think that I would be remiss if I didn't say that the feeling is totally mutual for Allison. I think we've known each other for over together, still commiserate when we can.
Yeah.
So first, thank you for inviting me to join this season of Paige for My Book. So a little bit about me. I'm just a normal guy in Philly, trying to make a way. But what I do professionally is that I am the commercial activities leader for IKEA USA. So yes, IKEA, the box store, furniture and home furnishings. So as a commercial activities leader, really my role is to pull together different parts of our commercial team, be it from a marketing perspective, interior design perspective, customer fulfillment, corporate communications, and really try and create the best possible commercial activities for the many people, as we call them at IKEA, or for all of our customers. So that's a little bit about what I do professionally, or my first full-time gig. But my second full-time gig is more of my passion project at the moment. And this is where I am the CEO and founder of Mount Airy Candle Company. That's been around for a couple of years, but really allows me to tap into that artistic side that perhaps I don't get a chance to do in my 9 to 5. But then also marry that with the business experience that I've gained from over, a decade in different marketing and consumer insights roles. So that's just a little bit about me professionally. And I would say personally, I'm just like everybody else. There are things that I love to do that I haven't been able to do because of 2020 and all that came with it. So, whether it's traveling to live music, sporting events, just the average make a way.
Yeah, totally. So basically, you work at IKEA, which we all at this point now have made you our best friend. And
Everybody.
Everybody, okay? Just went there last weekend. And then you also own your own company. So obviously, you have nothing to do. And that's a joke for those of you out there, because obviously he has everything to do. Like, how many hours in your day? I think that's just amazing. And so you talked to us a little bit about the fact that you have this side of you that loves marketing. You're able to bring brand experiences to life, and then there's this passion that you have just to create. And that job that you have in the ownership of this company you have with Mount Airy Candle allows you to do that. What would you say? You kind of touched on it. What is your true passion? It sounds like if I take both of those, it sounds like there's something in just creating.
Yeah, that's literally what my answer was going to be. Whether it's been my career in marketing or now owning a business and, having the final say, and in many cases, all of the says, and what goes on. It really, for me, is about creating something that hasn't been done before. Yes. I challenge the status quo just as a force of habit, just part of my personality. And not to say that the status quo isn't the right thing to do, but if we don't question what's always been done, how do we move to that next level? How do we remain relevant? I've learned that working for companies like IKEA and prior to IKEA, spent more than a decade at McDonald's. And it's really about how do you iterate? And if you're willing to create and really keep people at the center of what you're creating for, it reaps its own rewards in a lot of different ways, both personally and professionally.
Yeah. I really agree with you on that. I think that's one of the reasons why I was drawn to that industry as well. It's the producing aspect of it, like taking a concept or an idea or an insight and being able to build an initiative, program, or product that just speaks to multiple people and even a targeted audience, but just relevantly. Quick sidebar to all the listeners out here. So Marcus is someone I greatly looked up to when I was starting working with McDonald's, and just kind of getting my like bearings around like presenting to certain kind of clients, and you know, there are a lot of gems that you share with me that took forever. It was like gems like always know your audience before you walk into a room. And I'm like, yep, that's good. Because my whole thing was like, how do I answer questions? I don't know who's going to be in there. So just understanding that. You were an insights person. So like you knew all the facts, and then it helped you when you presented. So then you were on it. And literally that's something I do to this day. Like I am the fact checker. Like I don't say anything unless I can back it up. I'm like, that sounds interesting. Let me look into that. Like don't assume first, know your facts, and then speak versus the opposite.
I think you were meeting with me in North Carolina, South Carolina.
Yes, I was. I remember
facts, and I was like, no, actually, facts.
Know the facts. That, and it was a game changer. I mean, that's how I feel about everything now. Like even on social media, I'm like, don't comment, check the facts, then comment. And so just super thank you for that. And I know for me, it's always good to have people in my circle that can challenge me. And you were definitely one of those people. So grateful for that. And even in speaking in that, so you, from our relationship and knowing you, one thing that I can honestly say is you massively have this, you lean into ambition, living on the edge, not being afraid to go for what you want. And I want you to share a little bit, to the aspect that you want to, like some of your story in coming into, you know, climbing this corporate ladder, because you did that quickly and well deserved. But I would just be in awe of like, oh, you on your stuff for real, for real. So I'd love to know a little bit more about that story of like, this is what I thought I was going into. This was my, you know, goal. What out of that, well, maybe we can break it out into a couple of questions. So what was your mindset in that? Like, this is the goal I set out to do, and this is how I went to achieve it. And then from there, what part of that was revealed and what part of that was better than expected?
So that's a lot of questions.
But should I break it down?
No, I think to start to answer that question, and I might need you to come back and circle me back to a few. Sure. To start to answer the question, I kind of have to take it all the way back to my childhood.
Okay.
Right. So, you know, I grew up single mom, 3 kids. I'm the middle child, and I always felt like it was my duty to do right, be right, and just give my mom no problems. Right. And I was fortunate that I always felt like I was in the right place at the right time to take advantage of opportunities that presented themselves to me. So I grew up in Norristown, Pennsylvania, which is a suburb right outside of Philadelphia. Not one of the richest cities in Montgomery County, you know, but it is the county seat. So, you know, there's a lot of folks in Norristown. And it just so happened that my street, we actually got bused to the very nice elementary school across town when there were 3 more that were within walking distance of where I lived. And not to say that I would, if I went to those schools, but it put me in a space where I actually got to explore maybe I wasn't able to. It allowed me to kind of learn how to speak up for myself, being the only person of color in some instances, or one of few. You know, you kind of naturally feel not a part of the crowd and left out. So I had to start to find a voice. So, you know, going back to when I was a little kid, there were these ambitions that I had, not just to be like everybody else, but to kind of make my own way and have my own say about things. I think fast forward into McDonald's as an example, you know, right place at the right time. I was working another job. I was going to community college, trying to work full time and still get my education. And I just so happened to be on campus and they had a job fair. And I picked up, I remember it, this blue book, maybe 30 pages of different types of jobs that have been a part of the job fair that I couldn't make. And I'm flipping through and I see a job for McDonald's and I automatically flip past it because I'm like, I'm not, trying to work in a restaurant.
Right.
Like I'm about to go to this psychology class and I'm about to, trying to get my associate's degree in accounting. No, that's not really for me. And no knock for anybody that does work in a McDonald's restaurant. I have great admiration for those on the front lines at McDonald's. But when I flipped back, I actually read it and it was a job in the mailroom. I was like, okay, mailroom. I don't know what that means, but I'm going to go for it because if I can get my foot into a company like McDonald's, I'm sure that I can find my opportunities with a little bit of determination and hard work. I can, make some moves and not be in the mailroom for long, which thankfully happened. And then there's so many other stories around just being at the right place at the right time, but also being open when those opportunities present themselves and being aware enough to see them, even if others don't see them for you.
Yeah. I love that because a couple things. One, what I hear you saying is taking the time to really assess, like never judge a book by its cover, as simple as that is. Like, where are the possibilities? Let me look at the possibilities of opportunity versus sometimes just the title or the generalization of the opportunity. Because I know personally, like, yeah, you took that job at the mailroom, but I mean, favor upon favor for you. Like, you met it with hard work, you met it with excellence, and that grew you fast. Because let's be clear, yes, I know you were at the right place at the right time, but a lot of your preparation and approach of excellence to the business is what kept getting you places.
Right.
So I think that's super awesome. And then I think we'd be remiss to not talk about the village, right? So there's always people that, you feel like, I just want to give a nod to that person because there's maybe something that they saw in me, or maybe something like they don't even know who I am, but I saw them and was like, hey, I think I can do that. Or there's things about them that I appreciate and I want to either model or apply. So who are those people for you?
There are a few people. I think professionally, one person that comes to mind who we both know is Eric Roberts.
Absolutely.
Like you said, when someone sees something in you that you may not even see in yourself, not because you doubt yourself, you just don't know what you don't know, right? And Eric Roberts was someone who worked for our advertising agency that had McDonald's as a client. And in some interaction that we had, I guess I kind of made an impression. I remember that he invited me out to have lunch at California Pizza Kitchen and literally said, I want you to come work for me. Would you be interested? And, I'm 24, 25 at the time. And I'm just like, well, what do you see in me? Like, it just caught me completely off guard because I was just doing my thing, moving from the mailroom to being an administrative coordinator for McDonald's finance and marketing departments. And, I was just doing my thing and I never had the ambition to leave McDonald's. But when presented with the opportunity, it was kind of like, where will this take you? What will you learn? What doors will this open for you? And I think anytime that I look at an opportunity, it's more about what can I gain from this from a personal perspective. I mean, I've never solely gone after a job just for a title or just for the compensation, right? It's just not my thing. And that works for some people, right? It's just not me. I try to figure out how will it make me better in various facets of my life, because when I go into anything, I want to go hard. I want to create. I want to learn. I mean, heck, in some instances, you got to fail to learn, right? So it's being open to all of those experiences. Yeah, it's just being open to all of those experiences. And I'm fortunate for what Eric offered to me by way of a job that placed me in Atlanta for a couple of years. It was my first time moving away from home. Like I said, I went to community college because I was literally a week after high school, I started working full time in a retail store, right? I had to pay my own way. And not to say that my family wasn't there to support me, but, you know, I had to step up and pay for my books, pay for tuition, you know, pay towards my braces, right? So for me, it was my first time moving away from home to get this job in Atlanta that Eric had offered me to, you know, be a part of the team working on the Augusta, Georgia, and Columbia, South Carolina accounts, but then also working alongside him to build what was called 𝕤𝕒𝕣𝕢𝕦 Urban, or the African American division of the team managing the McDonald's account. And how do we connect with consumers in different markets? And Black folks aren't the same across the country. I know we talked a lot about that during the election, right? We are not a monolith. And how do you engage with this group who has spending power, who has different preferences from state to state, from city to city? So it was really about me learning more about consumer insights, developing strategic business plans, and things like that. So, you know, for Eric, I'm very thankful. I would say from a personal perspective, it may be cliche, but I don't care. My mama is.
Okay. I'm all about that.
I don't care. As a single mom with 3 kids, she did what she had to do to provide for us to the best of her ability. From her, I kind of learned tenacity, hard work. From her, I got my love of reading and writing. You know, my mom didn't finish K through 12, right? But one of the things that I was always in awe of was she's just a voracious reader. Like, she just reads and reads and reads. I'm more of a writer, right? But I think that's where I get it from. And a lot of that stick-to-itiveness, you know, getting through those valleys, right? And, you know, as I think about it too, I owe my dad a lot of credit as well. Not to get too personal, and hopefully he won't be mad at me for sharing this, but, you know, my dad was going through his own valley when I was little, right? So I didn't see a lot of him until I was about 10. And he decided to, you know, get his life right with the Lord, and wanted to be my dad and my sister, but be a dad to his kids. And I think a lot of my brain power, a lot of my smarts, intellectual smarts I get from him, street smarts I get from my mom. Mm-hmm. But I owe my dad a lot of credit, because it also, in a different way, is about how do you pull your life together, take advantage of the opportunities that present themselves to help you get on your way to being the person that you ultimately want to be for your family. And as I've gotten older, to acknowledge and appreciate that journey that my dad has undertaken. And we're so much closer than even, you know, when I was a kid, right? I just have an appreciation for the man he wanted to be, and the man that he carved himself into, if I can put it that way.
Yeah. Yeah, no, thank you for sharing that. You know, I feel very aligned on a lot of the things you said, because one thing I've learned, just as we just go throughout life, one major thing that I've learned is, or maybe that I observed, is as you get older, you realize, like, you were watching your parents grow up. And sometimes when we hit these ages where like you can remember, like, well, when I was 10, she was this, and then you hit those ages and you're like, well, shout out to them, because I don't
different
things out. Yeah. I'm like, I'm still figuring things out, you know. And I think there's two things that one I love and appreciate you sharing the story for all of the people that inspired you. One, yes, it is a village. It's a collective pulling from different experiences with relationships that help build who you are. I mean, even with this podcast, it's called Page from my book because even who I am are a collection of pages that come from the village that I've been exposed to and influenced by. And not every page has a great story on it, but a lot of learning from it, you know? And I think you learn from all types of relationships. And not only that, I think that in experiencing life through the different lens, especially with family and parents of like, this was your story, and I now have a different grace for you because I see what you were doing. You were giving me your best, which is relative to everybody. But even in the moments that, because we all know no parent is perfect, but in everything that they do, there's something that we can learn, and we hold a responsibility to pull those things. I know that may be an Allison thing, but I say that because I remember, you know, we always joke about like, you know, oh, we got parent issues or whatever. And I remember for me specifically a day where I was like, our whole existence on this earth isn't completely dependent on the people that we're around. Like, you are not destined to fail because of any situation that your parents have given. But we're mindful of that. But I remember the day where I was like, I have to say, this is who I want to be, separate from anybody. And that's not just a parent thing, like separate from anybody. An experience that happened in elementary school, a situation that happened at work, like I'm separate from that. I get the opportunity though, however, to choose what I pull from that experience and learn. So I appreciate you sharing that because it's true. Like your village is truly a village, and you learn from each experience. But not every experience is going to be roses. But those are literally the moments that make us who we are and how we respond.
You know what I would say too? I'm appreciative of my entire village, and not just Eric and my mom and my dad, but so many other people in my family, whether it's, you know, my cousin Javon, my sister, my Aunt Jean, you know, just friends and family. And I just want to call them out for a second, is because I am a bit of a abstract thinker, right? I can remember, you know, math class where I would always get partial credit because I got to the answer, but I had to do it my way, right? You know, like I'm just that kind of a thinker. And I'm fortunate that my village has not necessarily pushed me to be this, right? I've been told people so many times, I wanted to be a doctor, I wanted to be an author, I wanted to be a lawyer, I wanted to be an accountant. And, you know, those are all true in their own right? Like I've kind of coalesced all of those things into the person that I am today. But they've encouraged me to simply be myself, especially my grandma, God rest her soul, that it's okay to simply just be you. Because you are enough, and whatever that translates to for you, to your point, do it with excellence and do it to the best of your ability. And, you know, sometimes that can be a bit scary when, you know, you're rocking with folks, whether they're friends or classmates who, you know, they're the valedictorian and they're going off to be a lawyer or have a law career, or this person is going to go and be a bioengineer and doing those things. And for me, I never really knew what I wanted to do, in part because I didn't want to pigeonhole myself from the opportunities that would allow me to shape my destiny and my life based on what inspired me. And I've been fortunate that my village encourages that and has encouraged that too.
Yeah, I love that. When, as you talked kind of about your village, and we were talking about those experiences that make us, obviously, because life is real. And
so real.
It only gets more real every day and every year that you continue on. But obviously, you hit challenges, you hit walls, you hit obstacles, right? You talked about that there is there is purpose in failing, right? And the people who achieve the greatest things probably are very familiar in that
But
space of failing.
mhm, yeah.
I'm interested to know, like, what was either a defining moment or a collection of moments that you were like, am I even supposed to be here? Or this was a lot, this is not what I planned. Like I saw something and this is just not it. And it was like you just hit an impasse. What was that? And then also, and this is different for everybody, what was your, I guess, what was it for you that helped you get over that or push past that? Whether that was an incident, whether that was a comparison season that you were in, what was it and what gave you the fortitude or the perseverance to push past?
I think the thing that comes to mind was when I decided it was time for me to um, find life outside of McDonald's.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
To see what life could look like by leaving the McDonald's nest, if I can put it that way. And those who know me, and whether you know me well or only know me a little bit, everyone knows that I'm eternally grateful to the opportunities that McDonald's, as well as to Maroc, who employed me when I left McDonald's to learn the agency side of the marketing business before I went back to McDonald's, that I'm eternally grateful for all those opportunities, for shaping me, my business acumen, presentation skills, how to make sure you know your audience.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not just thinking about the words on the slide, but also, thinking about what is that question that John is going to ask you so you can be prepared. Because in many ways, if I can be honest, we have to show up a bit different, right? We're not always given the grace to not know. So whether we want to call it, yeah.
Yep, I just wanted to.
Yeah, Black people, just to go on and say it.
For sure.
Right, so it shaped me. It allowed me to travel the country. It allowed me to travel the world, buy a house, because I was able to reap the benefits of being a part of the McDonald's family. But there came a point where, home wasn't good, because McDonald's is a 24/7 business. Absolutely. Right? 2 cell phones, working to, ungodly hours in the morning to get ready for a presentation. Absolutely. To working on the weekends. And for a while, I mean, that's all I've ever known, right? I started McDonald's when I was 21. So my professional career, that's how I was trained. And IKEA is totally not that way, but it's hard for me not to bring some of that McDonald's time in to what I do at IKEA. They're quick to remind me, it's okay to turn your computer off at 6 o'clock, right?
I still have that challenge too, for the same reasons.
But here's the thing. I think that it's what also allows me to go ham, go harder, to create. Because I think at my core, I am an artist, right? Mm-hmm. I think I just have that spirit. Mm-hmm. And, I like to paint. Am I a great painter? By no stretch of the imagination, right? I like to write. Am I going to write the next great American novel? I still hope so one day, but do I think that's going to happen today? No, right? But it's this desire to create and the willingness to create that inspires me. And I realized that, towards the end of my time at McDonald's, one, I wasn't doing that. Mm-hmm. And two, home wasn't good, right? It's I'll be down for dinner. I got to finish this email, and that email turns into an hour, and my plate is still on the table, right? And I'm eating by myself, and that's my own fault. And it got to the point where I knew I had to make a different choice. That for me and for my own well-being and for home, I needed to do something different, and it was hard to come to that determination, right? Like it really messed with me for a little bit. Like, am I really leaving this place who has nurtured me to see what life is like beyond the golden arches? But it was something that as a young man, I needed to do, right? It's kind of like when you leave your parents' house for the first time. You got to go and spread your wings.
Yeah.
So for me, it was a tough time to figure out what I wanted to do next. But like I said, being at the right place at the right time has been a blessing for me over and over and over again. And once I literally finally made the decision that I need to do something different, the next morning I saw the job. It might have been on Monster. I saw the job for IKEA. And I said, you know what do I have to lose? I mean, I grew up, like I said, in Norristown. The year after I was born, IKEA opened its first store in the US. Wow. Literally in one town over, and not even a city, right? Town, right? Yeah. Give you a sense of how big. IKEA opened the year after I was born. So I've always known a world with IKEA, right? When my mom would take us, I never wanted to go to the ball pit, one, because, that wasn't really my thing. Right. I was a little bit of a mama's boy, so I just wanted to hang out with my mom, see what she was doing, see what she was up to. Right. But looking at the different products and the way that they would coordinate them together in the room settings and the catalog, it was just always so cool and amazing to me. Mm-hmm. And as a little kid, I was like, "Ooh, I want to work for IKEA someday," but probably not, because they seem way too cool for me. Your little year-old brain, right? So it was just serendipitous that the job presented itself to me the day after I decided that I needed to make a change for myself. Yeah. So, coming out of the valley in that way, kind of like going into a new valley. Once I had the interview, got the job, it was, now I got to figure out how to even operate in this culture, which is very different than what I'm used to. Mm-hmm. And going ham here probably won't be, considered too kindly. And how I did it at McDonald's, and how do I still bring the desire to create and bring the desire to innovate, but doing that with a sense of togetherness. Mm-hmm. And with people, right? I don't have all the answers. And I found that there's grace in saying, I don't know, mm-hmm. but I'm open to learning and or finding out. But you got to do the hard work. And sometimes that also feels like a valley, right? Because you're entering into the unknown, and it takes a lot of your willpower, mental power, to be humble enough to get through that. But those are some of the hardest situations I would say within the last 5 years that I've encountered, at least from a professional perspective.
Yeah. It also sounds like there has to be some form of being all right in the risk area.
Ooh, if I can be honest, I'm not all right in the risk area.
Yeah, okay.
But I am all right. And let me tell you why. For me, I get to the point where I just got to do it. Yeah. Right. I get myself all worked up in these feelings of, being in the valley. Mm-hmm. And then sometimes you don't realize that you're there until you're there. Yeah. Then that's when, for me, when I finally am conscious enough to realize that that's where I am. Yeah. I have to make a change. Yes. Right? Like I can't blame. I have a hard time blaming everyone else or other situations for where I currently am, especially not just from more from a mental perspective and emotional perspective, when I know that I can bring about the change that I want to see, but I got to be willing to put in the work. Yeah. And if I'm not willing to put in the work, then I can only blame myself, right? So sometimes it's not about the risk. It's about me saying, you got to stop saying, woe is me. What you going to do about it? Listen. And then the risk isn't even a risk. It's just me going for getting to better. Yeah. Or getting to happy, or getting to whatever that desire is on the mountaintop, if we want to bring it back to getting out of the valley. So for me, the risk is more a calculation of me. Am I sick and tired of being to do something different? Yep. And then the risk is part of the journey for me. It's the fun part. Yeah.
No, it is, and it is perspective. And to be honest, it's being tenured in life, in my opinion, too. I mean, like, yes, it's our choices, but I think, to your point, I'm not going to say those moments get easier, but you do start to have hindsight of like,
Hmm.
I gotta go for it. I'm either going to be stuck here, like you said, or I got to make it happen. And I can either make it happen today and be somewhere different tomorrow, or I can go in tomorrow thinking I'm still where I was today. And so it does take just a spirit of just get it done. Not to say that that step is easy, but it's true. Um,
It's
and
not, but if I can say really quickly
yeah,
too, and something that I've had to learn to adjust to is other people's expectations of me, be they good or bad, right? Because I've experienced times when people who I thought were in my village, um, you know, when I came back to McDonald's, I had a desire that, okay, I'm coming back, but I'm going to get promoted within a year.
mhm,
And folks who, had the role that I wanted to aspire to, that I would reach out to say, hey, how did you do it? Because this is my goal. And they say, yeah, it doesn't really work that way here. So, don't set your expectations too high.
mhm.
Which for me is you telling me I can't do something only makes me want to go harder, right? And here's the thing, they were right. I did not get a promotion in a year. They were right. I got a promotion in a year and 4 days. So I'll take it. Right?
Yes.
It's also about not being so caught up in what others believe of your ability.
Mhm.
It's also about how do you have enough faith in yourself to just keep moving and
Yeah.
doing what you know to be right
Mhm.
for you. And ultimately, if somebody's employing you, it also has to be right for the business. I mean, let's just say it for what. But you kind of got to be your own best friend in those regards, and not let someone else's words and or baggage, because I don't know what they bring to those conversations themselves, right? Um, determine of how you're going to move forward and move past and break through.
Yeah.
It's something that was hard for me, because there was a season of comparison.
Mhm.
There was a season of, oh, this person is also kind of doing the same role that I've got. And, perhaps it feels like they're on more of a charmed path than I am. Make sure that I'm in those meetings that they're in, or part of those same conversations that they're in, and what are they doing? And, you know, it's draining.
It is.
It's draining. And I'm thankful that I kind of got to the point where I realized I got to do what is right for me and keep moving.
Yeah.
Because when you take your eye off the ball,
Yeah.
it's bound to get stolen from you at some point, right?
Correct.
So I just wanted to say that too, just not being so caught up in what other people think of you. And as an artist at heart, I found that some of the greatest artists, no matter the medium or the genre or the field, in many ways have to block out what other people think for their genius to flourish.
Yeah. One, because it's relative, and
So
I
relative. So relative.
it's so relative. Like this is a beautiful creation to me, whoever else. And I want to hit on something before I shift gears, but there's a couple things that I firmly believe in, but I just wanted to make sure that I highlight out of what you said, and I've experienced it. One thing that I think runs parallel with what you said that I've experienced is the need to just let go of titles that belong to other people to give to you. And I mean, part of that is what we train. We are like, oh, I want to get promoted to this.
Right.
And that title belongs to an organization or a system or a construct that you're asking someone to give you, right? And so at one point in your journey, personally, professionally, whatever, I personally believe, and I had to do this for myself, I had to reclaim who gives me what. And I remember there was a time when I was like, I looked at people I admired. If you know me, you know Debbie Allen's is high on the list.
Yeah.
Um, And then, I can name a couple. You got your, Oprah's, the other people that I know from my personal circle. And one thing I always learn about them, and granted, yes, some of them are in the arts because that's what I lean into as well. But I always learn like they didn't seek titles. They were themselves, and then they own that title. So like you can say Oprah is a actress, a producer, a broadcast owner, all these things. She didn't ask or strive for an organization to give that to her, or industry to give that to her. She was, and that's what it was.
Right.
And I'm reminded of this. This is something I'm gonna tell you. I didn't clear it with you, but I'm just go ahead and say it. But I remember 10 plus years ago, you were like, and so let me just give this. So with that being said, you have to own it, you have to claim it. And I remember when we worked at McDonald's, I want to say even my sister, we talked about this, it was a whole conversation, and you were like, I'm going to be CEO by 40. And you're laughing. And I was like, that's what's up. I mean, granted, it was a whole lifetime away. But then I'm looking at you now, and that's what you are with Mount Airy Candles. And to me, that's a prime example of like, there's a concept that we sometimes believe that like, I want to be this based on someone giving this title to me. And then there's a concept of living in my passion, living in my truth. And I define that role. So here we are, not that age or whatever, because we still out here young, but
forever young,
right? But you have what you spoke. It may not have been whatever construct you had at 20, but you being who you are and owning that, cross it off the list way before you thought that would happen. And so I love that realization, and I hope listeners get that you being in your full truth, owning who you are, following your passion, and being excellent, literally you define who you are, not anyone else. And it takes some of the stress or anxiety of wanting or clamoring for someone to define you. And I think that's powerful.
The crazy thing is that, and I've thought about this a lot. I mean, 2020 gave us a lot of time at home, a lot of time to sit with our own thoughts. So probably around 10 years ago, I created, once I got on Gmail, right? Because, everybody moved from AOL to Gmail. I was like, what is my email going to be? And I decided it's going to be Future CEO 1984 at Gmail. And, yes, it was an ambition. I think what I thought a CEO would be for me is very different than what it is today. And I'm so much more fulfilled in what that means today because I'm doing it for myself, right? I'm doing it for my family. And there's something that comes with being a CEO of a small business that, well, I mean, when you're CEO of a small business, you are also the chief marketing officer, chief operating officer, the chief finance officer, the chief, all the officers, right? But last year it kind of struck me like, wow, you actually are a CEO. And it was tough for me to claim that title until somebody told me that, man, you're CEO of this candle business. And they were just saying it in general conversation. And it hit different for me because I didn't consider myself a CEO because it wasn't of a, billion-dollar multinational company, but it was spoken so long ago. And I'm so thankful for what it allows me to do, because it does allow me to be that creator and that artist in a very different way. But right now I wouldn't have it any other way.
And it allows you to be a CEO in a mentally healthy, happy, and purposeful way. Because we don't know what other people would have come by trying to define or let someone define what that would have been for us. I mean, when I heard about you opening this business, that's the first thing that came to my mind. I was like,
really?
We did it.
If I can really quick, and I don't know how many McDonald's people listen to this, but I do want to give a little shout out to someone that put a seed in my head before I even knew it was a seed. And their name is Cedric Jones. And we were having a conversation one day, and he was kind of like a mentor to me. You know, he's a vice president of operations, and we were having a conversation. I was probably, you know, giving him a hard way to go about something that I thought we should be doing that we weren't doing, you know, challenging the status quo. How do we do more? And he kind of went on a tangent and said, have you ever thought about going into business for yourself? I said, are you trying to fire me? Like, are you trying to, you know?
Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, what is you really trying to say? He's like, no. Just the way that you think and just your leadership style. I'm just curious, have you ever thought of going into business for yourself? And, you know, as someone who was in their early, mid-ish 20s, to hear that, you know, you don't really hear it. But even on the tough days of being a CEO of a small business, I'm reminded back to the encouragement, because that's what it really was at a that he gave to me, and that it will be all right, and you have what it takes to persevere and push on. So I just wanted to shout him out. If
I'm all about that. I'm all about giving props to where props are due. So listen, the other thing I'm doing this season is, you know, I feel like when we are coming out on the other side of something, sometimes it's just good to be encouraged and have your, like, you know, like when you're training, you have your playlist going. So I'm asking every guest this season, what song do you feel represents you the most, or that keeps you encouraged? Are you like, every time this is the song that gets my mind right, or this is a song that defines me?
Does it just have to be now, or could it be the song that's been there
forever?
That
song.
You want that song?
I want that song.
All right. So, and I'm a little nervous to say that, because I go back and forth with how I feel about it.
Okay.
But the song that I think stuck with me the most, or has stuck with me the most in my journey through life, is a Beyonce song.
Okay.
And it is I Was Here. And I don't know how many people know that song. It wasn't a song that was a single.
No, it wasn't.
But it is a great song, right? And there's a line in that song that says, I just want them to know that I gave my all. I did my best. I brought someone some happiness. I left this world a little better just because I was here. And for me, it's one of those things that's something that you got to work at.
Yeah.
Right. Like you can just show up and be a good person through life. I don't know if that will make you memorable or not. And that's okay if that's your thing, right? But for me, I've always wanted to leave a mark. I've always wanted to leave something a little better than how I inherited it. But I've also wanted to do it with grace. I've wanted to touch people and let them know that we're in this together. That, you know, if I can give you a minute of encouragement beyond this project that we're working on, if I can take a minute to give you encouragement around something personal or to help you get through something, you know, it's a little bit of a personal ministry, and not necessarily religious ministry, but just human to human, right? Like, how can we all touch someone and leave them a little better off? I remember, again, another moment that has stuck with me in my life from McDonald's. There was a national marketing meeting in Chicago near O'Hare Airport. You know the one I'm talking about. And, you know, I was walking back to my hotel from the convention, or the main hotel, and I saw a woman. I think she might have been a hotel worker. And she was like walking into work in tears, like literally in tears. And, you know, I felt like God has put me here for a minute to just give her a little, it's going to be all right. It's going to be okay. I don't know what you're going through, and I honestly don't know if it'll be okay. But a little bit of encouragement. Like, to me, my journey through McDonald's hasn't always been what's the next cheeseburger we're going to launch, right? It's been able to touch people, whether in McDonald's or people I've encountered along my journey, to just leave the world a little bit better because I was here. So I Was Here is one of the songs that I will stick with me through the rest of my life. Probably a song that I played at my homegoing service, not to be too morbid.
Oh, listen.
yeah, it's one of those things that is truly, it's like when you hear a song and you say, you wrote this with me in mind.
Right, right.
Like it touched me in a very, very special place. So that's been the lifelong song. But if I can do my most recent song.
What's your most recent song?
Because when this one comes on my playlist, like I actually got to do, a little two-step to it.
For sure.
Do you know Emily Sandé?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so Emily Sandé is a singer from the UK.
Okay.
And she has a song that was done in collaboration with the last X-Men movie. And it's called Extraordinary Being.
Mm.
And one of the I think it's one of the opening lines from the song is, how does it go? Give me a second. Well, let me just talk about it, and then I'll go back to the line. But it pretty much is just giving you encouragement that it's okay for you to be extraordinary, and for you to live into your gifts. And, you are a true perfection. You're made of stars. Don't let nobody tell you different. You got a lot of soul mixed with a lot of magic. Look how the sky turns gold every time you're dancing. And it really is about how do you have the belief in yourself to keep pushing and persevering even in the tough moments. So it's a great song. If anybody is still going to the gym, I haven't been going to the gym because of the pandemic, but if you need a song to get you right on the spin bike or the treadmill, it starts slow and then it gets going. But Extraordinary Being by Emily Sandé is that reminder that it's okay to be extraordinary and a little extra on your path to what happy and greatness for you looks like for you.
I love it. Well, Marcus, I so appreciate you taking the time to be a guest on season 3.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. It was great, and so much insight, vulnerability, and honesty. And really, that's what I really think we all just need, to be completely honest, especially after a year like last year. I think 2020 did pull the cover off all the facades of like, everything is perfect. It's okay for it not to be. It's how you respond to it that makes the biggest difference. And so thank you for sharing that. We talked about the business that you own. I want to make sure people know about that business, Mount Airy Candles. So where can they find out more about Mount Airy Candles? Where can they follow you and just get some more information?
So I would say I love Instagram.
Great.
So follow me on Instagram at Mount Candle Co. And I'm going to spell it out. MOUNTAIRY Candle, CANDLE Co. On Instagram, or you can actually view our website at 𝕄𝕒𝕣𝕢.com. And I know we didn't talk a lot about it, but if I can just get a quick just to talk about it, because it is truly a passion. It's a business that was never intended to be a business, right? It was kind of created from just one simple idea in 2018 that I don't want to buy Christmas gifts. Something.
Yeah.
It took me a little while to figure out, and I decided candles.
Yeah.
And again, not listening to what people have to say. It's like, well, you can go to Marshall's and get candles for $6.99. Why would you make your own candles? I said, because it's a gift made with love, and that's what I'm going to do. And funny enough, coworkers, family, friends who I gifted candles to wanted to pay me to create candles to give to other people as gifts. And then after Christmas, they wanted to pay me to keep making candles for them. And at first you're like, okay, sure, I'll make you some candles. And then it turned into a business where I was invited to a Black History Month sip and shop at WeWork. And it kind of told me, all right, there's some there if you want to put the passion and energy into it. So it's a business that was never intended to be, but I'm even more grateful for it coming to fruition just based on the sheer desire to show a little bit of handmade love to folks.
Yeah. I mean, I have mine, lavender sandalwood. Make sure y'all get it. Yeah, so Mark, I'm just so excited to have you. I'm so super proud of you and grateful for you
Thank you.
and you being
Feeling is mutual.
a great page in my book. Not to be cliche, but it's really, really true. And so make sure y'all go check him out. I will make sure that you can find him on IG in the episode description on all your listening platforms. So make sure to go and do that. Marcus, have a wonderful day. And I'm just so
You
ready.
too.
Yeah.
Real quick before we go, if I can take just 10 more seconds, because
Okay.
I got to tell you this.
Yes.
So you said I gave you a few little gems.
Yeah.
There's one gem of yours that sticks with me to this day, especially in moments where I need to take a breath.
Uh-huh.
You may not remember this, but I think we were in Indianapolis for a meeting.
Yeah.
I think it might have been PF Chang's, if we allowed to say brand names, my bad. And you said something that that tickled, that I keep close to me, and it's when I don't want to say the wrong, Jesus be a muzzle.
Say it one more time.
Jesus be a muzzle.
Jesus be a muzzle. Listen, yes.
I still hold that with me in different settings throughout my life to this day. So I have to say that I have a couple too.
Oh, wonderful. Well, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you all for listening. Make sure to tune in next week for another page from my book. Take care.